Hey guys, it's Barret, Insane Drummer. So Cam, he's a cool dude. If you haven't checked him out yet, I'll put his channel in the description. But he's really cool. He's been supporting me and Artist and Tony, me and Dad's channels a lot here lately. And he asked me a question the other day, and that question was, I know all these chords, Barret, but like, how do they work in music and stuff? And so there's different answers to that question. There's the theoretical answer, the music theory answer, which I'll talk about. And then there's just the ear answer, right? So in music, we always have those two variables. That's the number one thing to remember about music. And neither one is more important than the other. We always have the ear variable, how we listen and hear chords in this case, and how chords actually work in the mathematical way of, hey, we've discovered this is the way chords really actually work, whether your ear hears it or not. And vice versa. We can hear things, especially nowadays and in the 20th century and past, where theorists don't even quite necessarily even understand necessarily why we can hear these chords work in a certain way if we're talking about like weird chord progressions. So with that being said, the theoretical way to think about chords is basically you have to start with a key, a body of notes, a center. That's why we call it a key center. So every single song you've ever heard has a key center. A lot of times if you're talking about like a guitar song, you'll have like a G. Your G will be your key center. Now that could be on guitar, more likely it's going to be G major, not G minor. So what that really means is if we lay all those notes out, there's 12 notes chromatically, which means 12 notes in our alphabet, musical alphabet. But scales, diatonic scales, only have 7 notes, okay? So in other words, that's going to be the body of notes or key that works inside of this chord. So with G, it just happens to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. In other words, if I sang any of those notes over that chord, da, 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 you could literally pick any of those notes for your melody for your song and start out with that chord, and it'll sound good because that's how keys work. Now, a key means you're going to have certain chords that work well within this as well. So we have a scale, which means that's the notes that work well within the key. In this case, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, because that's the G major scale. The body of notes that work well with the G chord. But there's also chords that work inside of that key or in that scale. So in this case, we have G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, which I don't know my diminished chords, whatever, F sharp diminished, and then G major. Now, one reason why I don't know F sharp diminished is because most of the time we use what's called a flat 7 nowadays. So it'll be like an F to a G. Now I know you're scratching your head saying, well, how am I supposed to memorize that? Well, that's music theory for you. Basically, in a major key, you have major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7, and back to major 1. Those are the 7 notes in the key, and if you put those 7 notes into chords, that's what you get. Now, so basically you can go through and say you're in the key of F instead of G. Well, now you say, okay, that means a good thing to remember is that your 1, 4, and 5 is always going to be major. So if you're in F, it would be F, G, A, B flat, C. So F is major 1, B flat is major 4, and C is major 5. Back to F. So if we go to G, G is major 1, C is major 4, D is major 5. How did I know that? G, A, B, C, D. So you can use that method where you just count on your fingers 1, 4, 5. Because back in the day, songs used to just be mainly 1, 4, 5, and 5, 7. Now I'm giving these chords numbers because that's what we do as musicians. 1 chord is normally what key you're in. The 4 chord means you go up to the 4. 5 chord means you're up to the 5. Back to the 1. So if the 1, 4, and 5 are the major chords inside the key, then the 2, 3, and 6 are the minor chords inside the key. So that would mean A minor, B minor, and E minor for G. How do I know that? G, A, B. So G, A would be the minor 2 chord, B would be the minor 3 chord, and then E would be the minor 6 chord. Honestly, you want to write this down. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Or you can flatten the 7th and make it minor. So that's the theory answer. That's how musicians know, hey, this chord is going to sound okay next because we memorize what's called the 1, the 4, and the 5. Those are called the primary chords in each key. Now, the other answer is we just use our ear. Right? So if we start out with G, we call it a chord progression because we're progressing from one chord to the next, and that actually matters. It matters what chord you come from and what chord you go to. If I come from G and go to an F, well, now I'm already saying, hey, I'm going down. I'm descending. And that's one way to think about chords. You can think about chords as descending. So if we have like a C, if we start out with a C, we could go to B, to an A, to a G, to an F, to an E. Back to a C. So there I used a C, a G, and a D major. Now the funny thing here is that if I'm in the key of C, G is 5, so I knew that was going to sound good. C, D, E, F, G. Again, it goes into the 1, 4, and 5 rule, right? So 1, 4, and 5 for C would be C1, F4, and then G5. So as a musician, you already know that the 1, 4, and 5 are going to sound good together. But did I know that the D was going to sound good? Not really. Because from the theory thing I just talked about, C, D, well that should be a minor 2, remember? Minor 2, minor 3, minor 6. So I played a major chord there though. So that goes back to the whole, sometimes music diatonic theory doesn't really always, you don't have to always follow that. Otherwise you would be always playing exactly what we call diatonic, which means in the key. And there's nothing wrong with playing diatonic. It's a safe way to play because you know it's always going to work. But composers nowadays, they know about diatonic and they use it as like a guideline. Okay, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. They use that as a guideline for a major key. But at the end of the day, you just use your ear. So to answer your question, it has everything to do with what key you're in, what you're trying to go for musically, what the melody is doing. Melody is what you're singing, right? So if the other question is, how do I sing over what I'm playing? Well, you want to practice singing scales over chords. If you're in A minor, learn your minor scale. To be honest, no one writes a song up front. You do that and you figure it out, At the end of the day, this is your best friend. And the more you train this with music theory, see, that's what people don't understand. People who say, I play by ear, I don't need music theory. Playing by ear is great, but the music theory actually helps train your ear. Okay? So that's the answer. That's a big answer, but that's the best I could do. Basically, at the end of the day, any musician will tell you, if you want to learn about how chords work, you just learn lots of chord progressions. And at the end of the day, the more songs you learn, the more chord progressions you learn, the more tendencies you learn. Hey, this chord goes to this chord usually. Hey, this chord resolves to this chord. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you answered your question, Cam. And I'm looking forward to more questions. So hit me up with more questions and I'll do more videos like this. Thanks a lot.